The EV Michigan Road Trip, sponsored by LaFontaine Ford Grand Rapids.
After 4 days and 12 hours of driving, the EV Michigan Road Trip has made it back to West Michigan.
Yep, 13 on your side. Put our state's infrastructure and an electric vehicle to the test. Our Samantha Jacques is back in Grand Rapids this morning. Sam, we're so glad you all made it back safely. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, we are so happy to be back, and kind of my final thoughts is that driving this car was an absolute breeze with well-planned stops and giving ourselves time to charge. Although in the EV industry in general, there certainly is room for improvement. We started in Grand Rapids, went north to Mackinac City, traveled southeast to Port Huron, made it to the Motor City, and now we're back in Grand Rapids. That's a grand total of 755 miles with 12 and a half hours of driving. We spent an additional 2 hours and 40 minutes charging. This brought us to our grand total of $58.08. We learned a lot about charging along the way, but we made sure that we planned out our routes and only stopped in cities that had chargers available. Fast chargers took us to 80% and our overnight chargers took us to 100%. For most drivers, this is what day-to-day charging would look like. Consumers Energy says it would only cost you $40 a month in electricity if you charge in off-peak hours from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Driving the average electric vehicle produces about half the emissions of driving the average gasoline vehicle.
Job and economic growth.
It can be anything from human resources to an engineer or someone who college might not be their thing.
And infrastructure.
And so if we start at the home level, that's where the vast majority of charging happens, and it makes it really much easier for the grid to handle the additional load growth.
But in the same vein, there also needs to be major upgrades to our electrical grid.
We're looking forward to our utility partners stepping up to the plate.
You know, how do we sustain the battery? How do we, renew the battery? How do we, when it's all said and done, how do we, dispose of the battery safely?
The batteries themselves also will need longer range.
The heater, the headlights, every electrical load that you put on the system will eventually have some, even if it's small, effect on the battery.
And lawmakers will have to find new ways to fund road projects without the gas tax.
So that means that we have to, take this opportunity to reimagine how we fund these infrastructure projects.
But those issues are already being worked on by scientists, businesses, and state leaders, like creating roads that could charge your car while you drive.
And those get charged automatically. There's a charger underground. The way through the whole system, whenever they need charge, they get charged on their own.
And improving how to repurpose EV batteries themselves.
All of the batteries can be recycled, no matter if they were repurposed or if they weren't.
State lawmakers say Michigan put the world on wheels, and now we have to be the first to electrify the nation.
We are the #1 state for clean energy sector job growth and the #2 state for business development and business growth.
Overall, if you often find yourself on longer road trips, a hybrid or gas vehicle will be more efficient. But if you want a sustainable car to take you to and from work every day, EVs are a great option. And the price is comparable to an ICE car, especially with the tax incentives available right now. Jay, Emily, overall, this was a fantastic trip with very little trouble as we progressed throughout the week. But I do have to give a huge and big special shout out to the team that came with me this week. They did so much behind the scenes work, and they need to know how much I appreciate everything that they've done.
Doug and Maddie working behind the scenes there, getting to enjoy the trip all the while. I want an electric vehicle now.
Yeah, great stuff, Sam and Doug and Maddie.
You can watch the entire EV road trip on our YouTube page and 13onyourside.com. Check it out.